Zoro's next power-up is not only going to be the best, but probably one of the best in the entire series. And there will be spoilers for the latest chapters of the One Piece manga. Your first thought when you heard Zoro and power-up, I guarantee you went to, oh, he's getting a black blade, but that's not really it. To tell you, I have to go back to some of Zoro's older fights. And the first fight I want to talk about is him versus Das Bone. The biggest thing about this fight right here is that Zoro needed to become a better swordsman. Even though technically Das Bone wasn't a sword wielder himself, he was still a blade user. And Zoro needed to become aware of a way to cut steel. This fight's conclusion came in the chapter 195 titled Mr. Bushido. In this fight, Zoro's understanding of the sword increased just a little bit more. One thing we know about Zoro's serious fights is that he always ends up kinda like this. Essentially, almost dead. Here starts the beginning of Zoro's greatest power-up. Zoro begins to hear the breathing of certain things. The rocks, the trees, steel itself. And he thought this: I've had this feeling before. Around me was eerily silent. My heartbeat was like distant thunder. It was like standing at the gates of Hades. Essentially standing at the brink of death. Understands breathing. And Kirishiro tells him, listen Zoro, there's swordsmen in this world who are able to not cut anything. To not cut anything is like hearing the breathing. Is that the power to cut steel? At the brink of death, he understood not only breathing, but that his sword finally understood his will. To cut what you want to cut and not cut anything at all. But moving forward, not only with the sword understanding Zoro's will, but Zoro understanding his own will. Even being able to manifest it into a form, the Demon Aura 9-sword style Ashura. And the second hint to Zoro's possible power-up is him literally becoming a demon. The next hint came from the arc Thriller Bark, and it's really interesting because that arc is essentially about death and rebirth, where the legendary samurai Ryuma came back essentially with Brook's shadow and fought Zoro, and Zoro was able to do this. With the move Flying Dragon Blades, he was not only able to cut Ryuma down, but also make him catch fire. And this is also important. And after everything he dealt with on Thriller Bark, this situation happened with Kuma, essentially Zoro putting his life on the line for his captain, Monkey D. Luffy. Already at the brink of death, he had to take on all of Luffy's pain, a mythical zone. And in the end, nothing happened. Or did it? A lot of people speculate that Zoro essentially died and came back. And to be honest, with everything that's happened, what we've seen in Wano already, it's very possible. After all these moments, it led up to this. Muggy Kingdom ruins Gloom Island Grand Line, where he bowed down to Mihawk and said, teach me what you know. And Mihawk tells him, thrashed by the monkeys and unable to go to sea, I have nothing to teach a man who can't even finish what he starts. And Zoro said, I beat the monkeys. All of them. The interesting part about this is Zoro is essentially facing death once again. The reason why I'm saying this is because the first true time we saw him face death was when he fought Mihawk at the Baratie. Fought his goal. And after everything that happened with Luffy, he essentially got another one. And right here we know that Zoro has already built the foundation to achieve both goals. Now what he lacked was Haki. Could increase his power and essentially help him be able to cut anything he wants. And now we fast forward all the way to Wano with Zoro's fight against King. Honestly, another situation where he's fighting something he must cut, but currently can't. But in his dire moments, Zoro remembers something all the way back on Fushi Village when he's talking to Kozaburo. That a sword has its own personality. A swordman must master it and bend it to his will. So in the fight with Das Bone, he said the sword understood his will. And now, he needs to understand the swords. Not just any sword. The king of the underworld, Enma. His fight with Das Bone was fighting at the brink of death. Here he is again, fighting King at the brink of death. Building his foundation and going to train with Mihawk to learn Haki. Here he is saying, how should I stabilize my Haki then? If I have to keep exuding it at this level, then it'll kill me. And he says, wait, but no, that's perfect. Foundation Zoro is built up all the way from the beginning of the story to help him take yet another step. And this is important because this is also a hint to his next power-up. In this moment, Zoro finally understands that he also has the will of a conqueror. Conqueror's Haki. Zoro found out how to beat King and also attain the power to do so. And Zoro used King of Hell, 3-sword serpent, 103 mercies, dragon damnation as he defeats King. Doing so bended Enma to his whim because Enma was the king of the underworld and Zoro proclaimed himself the king of hell. But look closely. Yes, we see the Conqueror's Haki, but we also see the green flames emanating off his blade, which is also very important. After defeating King and declaring himself king of hell, Zoro was unable to move and was greeted by this. Essentially a Grim Reaper about to take his soul, saying, what's going on with my body? It won't move. No, stop, don't. See, there's a lot of speculation going on with this very panel that Zoro was basically about to face death but came back somehow. It's plausible because Zoro continues to face death time and time again, but for some reason, in some way, he finds his way out every time. This is very important because of two people. First one is none other than Soul King, baby. Brook. When he fights with Soul Solid, saying, each strike is imbued with Soul's own energy, inflicting upon its victims the chill of the underworld. That's important because of the other guy, Saint Ethan. He's essentially able to do the same thing as Brook, use cold soul energy to cut down the pacifista. But not actually cut them down. What he's doing is temporarily disabling or freezing the circuits to their brain, basically making them immobile. Showing us two sort of techniques we talked about in this video already. Cutting what he wants to cut, but also using cold soul energy to disable them. And the reason why this is important because of what Luffy said in the race chapter. He says, keep running away because the Gorosei essentially are immortal. And the Giants are like, I've never heard of such a power or a race. With all the damage they keep taking but basically coming back unscathed, there has to be something more in order to defeat them. Zoro has already essentially shown us he has the capability of cutting almost anything. And the reason why I said Brook and St. Ethan are both very important is because they're able to use the cold energy from the underworld. Now Zoro is essentially calling himself the King of Hell, wielding the sword that's called the King of the Underworld Enma. It has faced death time and time again, even declaring that his heartbeat sometimes stands at the gates of Hades. It's possible that Zoro can also interact with the power of the underworld, like Brook using the chill, Zoro in King of Hell form, him using the flame. Almost direct opposition to St. Ethan, who most of the people are speculating the Gorosei are actually demons, him using the chill of the underworld versus Zoro using the flames. Brook's ability being almost directly powered by soul. His next power will be him being able to cut the soul directly. Almost depicted here with him cutting down Ryumo with his flames. Ryumo, the dragon. St. Ethan, the celestial dragon. Zoro will still get his black blades because after collecting the Katetsu from St. Ethan, he already knows only one person left. I don't need to say much more. But hey, they're also the Holy Knights, so we'll have to wait and see.